Healing isn't loud, it doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like sitting alone, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand why you feel the way you feel, and in those quiet moments something inside you begins to shift slowly, silently, but deeply. You start realizing that healing is not about erasing memories, it's about changing how those memories live inside you. The same past, but a different impact, the same story, but a different meaning. Most people think healing means becoming happy again, but real healing means becoming free, free from triggers, free from emotional loops, free from needing validation from things that once broke you. And the moment you understand this, everything begins to change because now you're building peace within yourself. You don't go back because you're weak, you go back because something in you is still unresolved, something still wants closure, understanding, or maybe just peace. The past has a strange way of pulling you in, not because it's good, but because it's familiar, and the human mind often chooses familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. You replay conversations, rethink decisions, imagine different endings, but the truth is healing begins the moment you stop trying to rewrite what already happened. You don't need to go back to understand it, you need to move forward to outgrow it, because growth begins when you accept what is. At some point healing becomes less about what happened and more about who you are becoming, because the real power lies in this shift. You are no longer the same person who went through that pain. Your mindset has changed, your awareness has grown, and your heart has learned things it never knew before. You begin to see things differently, you react less, you understand more, and slowly you start creating distance between who you were and who you are now. This is where real healing begins, not when the pain disappears, but when it no longer defines you. You stop asking why did this happen to me and start asking who am I becoming because of this, and that single question starts rebuilding your identity in a way your past can no longer recognize. There was a man who carried a heavy bag everywhere he went, inside it were memories, regrets, heartbreaks, mistakes. Every step he took felt exhausting. One day someone asked him, "Why don't you put the bag down?" He replied, "Because it's mine." The person smiled and said, "It may be yours, but it was never meant to be carried forever." That day, he didn't throw the bag away, he simply loosened his grip. For the first time, he felt lighter. Healing isn't about forgetting the bag exists. It's about changing your relationship with it until it no longer controls you. Letting go is often misunderstood. People think it means you have to hate what hurt you or completely erase it from your life. Real letting go is quiet. It's when you no longer feel the need to prove anything, when you stop waiting for apologies that may never come, and when you finally accept that some chapters are meant to end without explanation. You don't let go because it didn't matter, you let go because your peace matters more. Slowly, the emotional attachment fades, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself more. This is where healing deepens, when your heart chooses peace over reaction, silence over chaos, and growth over holding on. There comes a point where you get tired, not physically, but emotionally tired of repeating the same cycles, the same pain. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing people, you stop over-explaining, you stop trying to fix everything, and instead you turn inward. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you become selfish. It means you finally understand your worth. You begin to set boundaries without guilt, protect your energy, and start building a life that feels right, not just one that looks right to others. Once you reach this point, your past slowly loses its grip on you because you are no longer the person it once controlled. There is a phase in healing where everything becomes quiet. No more over-explaining, no more chasing, no more reacting the way you used to. At first, that silence feels strange, almost uncomfortable, because you were so used to noise, chaos, and constant emotional movement. But this silence is not emptiness, it's transformation. In this quiet space, you begin to understand yourself on a deeper level, your triggers, your patterns, your fears. You start responding instead of reacting, choosing peace instead of proving a point. Slowly, you realize not every situation deserves your energy. Once you master this silence, your past loses the power to disturb your present. There was a man who kept returning to the same door, again and again, hoping it would open differently. Behind it were memories, emotions, and a version of life he couldn't let go of. Every time he knocked, he expected closure, answers, maybe even a different ending. But the door never changed, it stayed silent and unmoving. One day he realized the door was never locked, it was simply not meant for him anymore. For the first time, instead of knocking, he stepped back, not in anger, not in pain, but in understanding. He turned around and walked away, not because he stopped caring, but because he finally respected himself enough to choose a different path. And as he walked away, new doors and new beginnings awaited him. Healing isn't about forcing doors to open, it's about having the strength to walk away from the ones that were never meant for you. There comes a moment when you realize you don't react the same way anymore. The things that once triggered you now feel distant, almost irrelevant. The people who once had power over your emotions no longer affect you the same way. The memories that once hurt you now feel like lessons instead of wounds. This is when your healing reaches a new level, not because your past disappeared, but because you evolved beyond it. You start thinking differently, choosing differently, living differently. Slowly, you become someone your old self wouldn't even recognize. When you truly heal, your past loses its identity within you. It no longer defines you, it simply becomes something you survived. And one day, without even realizing it, you wake up and feel different, not because life suddenly became perfect, but because you did. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you respond, everything carries a sense of calm you once searched for outside. You no longer beg for attention, you no longer chase validation, and you no longer hold on to things that disturb your peace. You become someone who protects their energy, values their silence, and chooses their happiness without guilt. Healing was never about changing your past, it was about creating a version of yourself that your past can no longer control. This is your new self, stronger, calmer, wiser, and finally at peace. You don't just move on, you move forward, freely.